Paradise in my mind. Chapter 1. I wanna go past the conscious mind. The soul/essence. The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens into that primeval cosmic night that was soul long before there was a conscious ego and will be soul far beyond what a conscious ego could ever reach. Carl Jung, The Portable Jung. The theater of the mind is the easiest way to enjoy your life. Regardless of circumstance, state of mind is everything. Anybody can live in that lusty, beautiful, happy place known as your soul, your insular Tahiti, your own personal paradise, your highest vision of aesthetic beauty. Your soul/essence treats physical reality and cognitive thought the same, so whether you experience an event in real life or merely imagine it, the effects on your mind, body, and soul will be almost identical. Regardless of the circumstances of your life, you can choose to be happy by enjoying the scenarios you create in your mind, choose to be mundane by living in the rut of the so-called real world all the time, or choose to be sad by stressing yourself out over negative things. In order to be happy, you have to wear multidimensional, rose-colored glasses and enjoy the view. Freud said dreams are the expression of the soul/essence, that hidden part of you beneath the surface of conscious reality that holds your inner truth much more than your conscious thoughts can. Unless you're enlightened enough to live totally by soul, then the conscious mind is soulful all the time anyway, which means you're so free that you pretty well live by your soul/essence all the time. If your soul is unfulfilled and you're feeling miserable on a daily basis, your dreams will bring out your subconscious soulful thoughts and tell you what you need to do. Oftentimes, your dreams come from your pain, an unconscious desire to do something to change your unhappiness. The way to fight pain is to do something good to overcome it. When I went through a period of physical inactivity after an accident, I found myself dreaming of the vital guy I used to be. Listen to your dreams, it's your soul telling you what you don't have the sense to face head on out in the open, then do something about it. If you're not being a good enough lover with your family, they will tell you that too. The soul/essence always speaks the truth. Freud talked about it as the most important facet of your life. It comes to the forefront when you sleep and dream. Sometimes you may try to repress painful things from your conscious mind, but you really have to deal with them to resolve them even though you don't want to. In these cases, you get flashes of them in your dreams, daydreams and other idle moments. They automatically assert themselves. This is your soul/essence talking to you. For example, suppose you had a fight with your daughter and have been estranged for the past 20 years. You may put it out of your conscious mind but find yourself waking up from dreams about her. In the same way, your soul/essence spits out images of your archetypes at you. You get flashes of you at your best, being who you were created to be, living in some mythical paradise. I take all these images as the real me, my highest vision of aesthetic beauty, then release energy to make them real, but I'm no fool. Every morning when I wake up, I have to honor who I feel I was born to be. There is no picture-perfect moment in life which stays every day, forever. I know that every morning I have to challenge myself to do the physical and creative activities I do every day in order to keep a hold of the person I feel I was born to be, so I do them every day no matter what. I'm hooked on honoring my few archetypes. I'm a workhorse, but it's not like work to me. It's like natural joy, being in my pure element as an individual, doing exactly what I feel I should with my life. The mind-body-soul triad does not discriminate between real conscious thoughts, concrete day-to-day events, and the thoughts of fantasies. What you feed into your mind on a constant basis enters the soul/essence as programming and affects all the cells of your body and even your soul. Hence, the solution is simple. Think greatly about life and put it into action. Fantasies are great provided you don't cross over into delusion. They will set off a chain reaction such that the interaction between mind, body, and soul will keep you strong and inspired. Prayer and meditation are essentially the same things for the effects they have on the psyche by programming it for a positive flow of centering energy. You can talk to your soul/essence and tell it to do things. You're basically programming yourself for whatever you want. Your soul/essence never sleeps. Tell it when you want to wake up and you will. If you start to bombard yourself with thoughts of losing weight and getting thin, the body will accommodate you by getting thinner. In a nutshell, your thoughts create habits out of which you can create your own destiny. You are what you think and reap what you sow. The imagination is born in the soul/essence. Incubation is a process whereby you take in certain thoughts about a situation, mull them over in your mind and leave it alone. Then while you're sleeping or daydreaming somehow the soul/essence is working on it, and all of a sudden, it spits out the answer in a simple, clear way. This is insight. You suddenly see the big picture of it all. Incubation in idle contemplation will open a pathway to your subconscious, to your true inner soul. Everyone has tremendous latent powers within their soul/essence. You just have to access it and live it. Open your mind to new ideas, use your imagination, visualize knowledge flowing into you and power flowing out of your soul/essence. Books about the soul/essence are at number 154 at the library. Fantasy/creative visualization. Since we can't change reality, let's change the eyes through which we see reality. Nikos Kazantzakis. Without this playing with fantasy, no creative work has ever yet come to birth. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. Carl Jung. A big part of living a great life is fantasy, although very few people will admit to it. Life is at least 90% of your time alone, stuck in your own thoughts. Virtually some part of the day is geared to tedium, such as repetitive tasks, driving in traffic or whatever. The soul takes in what it gets, analyzes it and spits out either a happy, powerful person, a generic consumer, or a sniveling wimp, depending on the feedback loop. What this means is that regardless of whether you're living a great life or just fantasizing about one, the results will be the same on your psyche. Real life cannot compete with the incredible fantasies you create in your mind, which is why I live there a lot. I may create a sexual story, a love story, a great adventure, perfect peace, etc. Everybody does it, it's no big deal as long as you don't go into delusion. Some of it is aimless fantasy, which is fine if it makes you feel good. Another part is what the so-called experts call creative visualization, visualizing yourself as a champion of life, seeing your success in your mind and making it happen. It's all about programming yourself to feel great about life regardless of the circumstances you're in. It's not delusion if you know the difference between fantasy and reality. The only real reality is the thoughts in your brain, your stream of consciousness, and all that materialistic stuff around you is just dressing. If you can program yourself to be happy in the most meager, miserable circumstances, you've got it made. And it's all about fantasy, talking to yourself all the time, creating beautiful little stories in your mind with full, technicolor images. I've read several stories about people living through hell and making out all right because they kept fantasizing about better days in beautiful surroundings. There was Roger Caron in Go Boy, who tells about his life as a criminal going through the Canadian penal system, where he ended up at Penatanguishun, a prison for the criminally insane. Midnight Express about Billy Hayes in a Turkish prison, and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl living through the Nazi concentration camps. Consider the case of another concentration camp survivor I saw on TV, Joseph Mendelssohn. He was an artist by trade who survived by imagining that he was creating great works of art on the canvases he pictured in his mind. These guys kept their wits about them no matter what was happening around them, and dealt with life by imagining themselves in better circumstances. Fantasies make you feel good and have a great effect on your performance as a functioning human being. They give you strength and power to continue on with whatever you're doing, all the way from athletic pursuits to going for your dreams. They can put you into that headspace that some people call the zone, where it seems like time is suspended. You feel great, crystal clear, like you can do monumental amounts of work and otherwise outdo yourself during that brief, little interval of time. So my point is clear. Fantasize away, turn your fantasies into action, then reality. Fantasy is fine to help you get through the day or motivate you to go for your dreams, but delusion will destroy you because you're not using your intelligence to see the whole picture free and clear with no blinders on whatsoever. Reality is always preferable to delusion because in order to be in control, you have to know what's going on around you. Some people say that ignorance is bliss. There's even a statement in the Bible that says too much knowledge causes a worrisome, burdened heart, and while I agree you shouldn't try to know everything or take on the burdens of the world as in watching the news on TV and keeping up with all the negative current events around the world, ultimately, people who live in ignorance invariably crash due to that ignorance at some point in time when reality hits them. Fantasy and creative visualization are great to keep you feeling good and happy, but at the same time you must acknowledge to yourself that it's just fantasy and live in the real world. Visual artists, writers, sculptors, and a few others generally get to release their fantasies through their work, like the sexual art of Pablo Picasso, the horror of Stephen King, or the erotica of an ace nin. It's a great way to live provided you can make a living off it. Vision quests. Major vision quests are basically times you take to get away from it all to center yourself and come to your focus with vigor, or looked at in another way, your entire life is one big vision quest, a journey of discovery, a work in progress. But even as you go along with your mission and know what it is, you have to occasionally take time out to reaffirm it in your mind because it inspires you and keeps you strong in your vision. If you don't have your life's vision, this is the only way you're gonna get it, either getting away to do nothing for a while, such the thoughts of your soul will eventually come to the surface, or do as I did, live without a job and any responsibilities beyond basic bills, do what you feel you must intuitively and contemplate your life day after day. Sooner or later you should find your soul and live it out. Another approach to the vision quest, which is basically beating a path to the soul/essence, is simply to take certain recreational substances that do the job handily, or wear yourself out such that the visions automatically come to you. This is what the native sweat lodge ceremony is about. It wears you out such that your true visions come forth. The traditional vision quest of sending young braves out in the woods alone to find themselves was a hybrid of getting the brave scared, weak and hungry from being out there. Then he drank a herbal concoction given to him by the shaman beforehand to ingest, which he thought led to the gods casting a spell on him, but it was really the drug in the concoction that got him high and enabled him to see what was in his soul/essence. So along with a few suggestions from the shaman, this is how many of them found their visions for their purpose in life. Anything that gives you the free time to let your mind flow in solitude for a while, unbothered by the world, will eventually lead you to your soul/essence. Pilgrimages, retreats, living out in the woods, hiking the Appalachian Trail, taking a desert trek, going on a fast, etc. are all types of vision quests. Vision quests can't be forced. The more you try, the more you fail. You just have to sit back, and sooner or later, the intuitive forces will come out of you to the forefront of your life. In the real world, most of us have real practical concerns that prevent us from living this way, as a conscious and unconscious journey of experience all the time. So the solution is the minor vision quest, the little bits of time you take to get away from your routine and your loved ones, to be totally by yourself, to come to a focus of what's real and relevant in your life. No matter how centered or uncentered you feel in life, it's a wise idea to get away from everything for a few days every little while, to just sit around and do nothing. Don't talk to anyone and don't bother with the media too much. Just go out to the country or take a walk, then let your mind clear out all the crap in its free flow of thoughts. After a few days, whatever you believe in most will come to the surface. Some people use superficial excuses to do this, although the real reason is to think things through and get some harmony back in your life. Some guys go fishing, for aimless drives, an alleged shopping trip to another city, but the real reason is to relax, contemplate your life, to get your true soul back. Even though I'm usually centered and know what I want, where I am and where I'm going, I've found that if you get away to do nothing, after a while, the few, most important things that matter to you come into your head and stay there, invariably two things. The person you want to be. The love, of your life. It always comes down to soul and love. Once I reiterate the few defining statements of my life which we need to do from time to time because we get lost, lose our focus, I'm ready to go back to my inspired routine, happier and motivated because I know I'm doing exactly what I want out of the deal. Even though my visions rarely change, it's good to go on a vision quest just to see that you're still the same, nothing's changed. You can't force it by conscious thoughts. The real you will come out in idle thoughts when you spend enough time loafing around doing nothing in particular. Analyze your visions and go on from there. It's a great thing to do, to be by yourself long enough such that the things in your soul/subconscious come to the forefront of your thoughts. Rest is good. It gives you a chance to think. The peak experience. Live purposefully. Make the most of every opportunity. Ephesians 5:15-16. Overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. The peak experience can best be defined as a state of beyond happiness. For me, although I can feel good through creative pursuits, I generally only get really intense peak experiences through physical activity, usually through intense sustained motion like running, swimming, biking, hiking quickly, rowing, etc. Anybody can dance. You can get high simply by putting on some good music and dancing uninhibited in your house. The Chinese do Tai Chi and Qigong, which are art forms of the body and mind. We in the West don't seem to realize how vital our bodies are to the enjoyment of life as the instrument through which we experience our lives. If you're fat, weak, or sedentary, there's no way you can truly enjoy your life regardless of what jolly face you put on. The happiest people are the most physically active. If it's outdoors, that's better still. The hiker, the rock climber, the swimmer, the kayaker all get it. It's really where it's at. Physical vitality is a major ingredient for an inspired soul to live a great life. Ultimately, our bodies are all we own. Developing the control of a vital, powerful body is the path to freedom. Weightlifting is good exercise, but it's too slow and plodding to capture this feeling of fused motion and soul. It's all about some kind of sustained movement, anything from dancing to rock climbing. Generally, my peak experiences are a combination of these 6 things. Exercise/physical activity/movement. Music. Nature/the great outdoors. Free flow of thoughts. Pets, i.e., dogs. Some silence and peace. The peak experience is the feeling you get when you run the miracle mile of unleashed intense inspiration regardless of whatever version yours may be. A friend of mine runs his miracle mile when he goes nuts on his drums. Another guy sits in his workshop in his garage and creates things out of wood. It doesn't have to be intensely physical. Sometimes I get a different kind of high when I create something with the printed word. The creative expenditure fills me up and makes me feel that I'm being an artist of life, purging my best inspired energy from my system. If I create something original, it makes me feel great for a while, fulfilled for the moment, like I'm reaching for that magical place that all my free-spirited kindred spirits before me have done. This feeling most of the time for the rest of my life is what I really value in life. Endorphins are little hormones and neurotransmitters in the brain which, when released, cause you to feel euphoric, nice, pleasurable feelings, something like natural morphine. Physical activities plus creative activities equals soulful pursuits which cause the release of endorphins as long as you take these activities to the point of exhaustion but don't cross that line into overwork which wears out your immune system and makes you feel tired and weak. There's also a power/control type issue to it. We are our bodies. If we just let them go as inanimate pieces of flesh, we're screwed. If we use them and develop control over them, it's a great way to live, not to mention that it makes you feel like $1 million racehorse. Secondly, thirdly, and fourthly are music, nature and pets. I use silence and peace for a while when I'm outdoors after a run or hiking around in the woods. It's great to be outdoors in a peaceful place, watching the birds, squirrels, and the clouds, enjoying the day in silence, letting the free flow of your dreams, thoughts, and fantasies flow. I do it at home too when I lay on the bed with no mass media around and just relax in the total silence of my own thoughts with my fan blowing cool air over my body. It's great to sit back, thank your lucky stars for being alive and appreciate it. Silence is great for thinking and giving thanks for your life to your God or to life itself for the miracle it is. I combine these 6 things: exercise, music, nature, pets, silence and the free flow of thoughts on a regular basis to take me to places that are hard to get to if you live in the hustle and bustle of the so-called real world. It's not only my formula for feeling great on a daily basis, but it's also my fountain of youth and my theme in life. Chapter 2. Keep your soul strong. A sense of paradise. Everybody was born with a soul that has a pre-stamped vision of life on it. A major question of existential meaning and the quest for personal identity is to what extent will you follow this vision versus to what extent will you follow the world's protocols, often without even realizing it, i.e., to what extent will you be brainwashed by the system and culture around you. The other major issue as it relates to existential meaning, the need for love and social connections, as well as the extent to which you're prone to feel lonely and sad as opposed to happy when alone, is how strongly is your need to follow your little vision or inner standard versus your need to live in a community of souls with others, to share your life with some of them in such a way that it may sacrifice some of your lone vision of what you want, or it might be a part of it, to share your life with a husband or wife, children, neighbors, friends, workmates, the local community, church congregation, etc. There is a spectrum regarding the extent to which you want to follow your soul vision of endless summer and do exactly as you please versus the extent to which you're willing to share your life with others, which will mean sacrificing some of this desire to live freely, pursuing the things you want. Very rarely does anyone get both to their full satisfaction. 1. The freedom to do what you want when you want. 2. A loving family and friends who accept you as is in your freewheeling, bohemian ways, with a kindred spirit soulmate who is like you and does the exact same type of inspired activities you like to do, so that you can share your love of life together. With most people, you have to meet them halfway, give them love, cater to them somewhat, spend time with them while in the back of your mind you're probably thinking about something else you'd rather be doing, since most of us are inherently self-centered, but that's love. To do what you don't want to do to please your loved ones because you love them so much. The purpose of life is to find the inner secret within yourself and live by it. The world is insane. Only you can find peace within yourself. Life has got some inklings of Carl Jung's concepts of archetypes and the collective unconscious, which go back to the source that all humanity came from, some ideal of paradise, heaven, or God locked away within ourselves that we got from our distant ancestors way back at creation, that has been passed on through the generations by our genetic seed, or something more ethereal and divine, and comes out when the conditions are right for enlightened people to get past conscious reality for a little while to access these mystical states that some people think is the soul/essence, while I tend to think it's deeper than that. This experience within, hidden away in an individual's genetic memory, helps people get a clearer view of where we come from as the human race and who we are as individuals. You can't live in paradise in the real world, firstly because most of us don't have the money to create our own fantasy worlds, secondly, we can't impose our wills on how we want others to act, and thirdly, it's too damn hard anyway, because to live in paradise means you're wealthy, healthy, wise, working your ass off to attain the inner standard you want, to feel great about yourself, getting all the pleasure you want, united with a community of souls otherwise known as your family and friends, which all take a tremendous amount of effort, plus, throughout it all, you're at peace with yourself, living a calm, happy life. In order to be wealthy, it takes hard work, even if you're doing something that inspires you. A few people fluke out and become wealthy relatively easily, but most people work hard for the money. Nobody can predict if they will get a major disease or injury, but you can maximize your health by working your butt off physically, watching what you eat, trying to stay relaxed, etc. This takes effort even if it inspires you. Wisdom can't prepare you for the random misfortunes of life, even though it can help you deal with them. There might be a storm that wrecks your house, you might get into an argument with someone which escalates into a war, the government might audit you, you might get hit by a car, get a divorce, lose your job, be the victim of a crime, go bankrupt, get a big bill for a car repair, your child might become a hippie beatnik, etc. Paradise is not in the cards for most people simply because of the way life works. Some crap is always happening to you, messin' with the smooth flow of life. In order to get the pleasures you want out of life, you have to feel good about yourself, and from my experience, this only comes by constantly challenging myself through inspired activities that take a lot of effort. So if I sit back and rest on my laurels for more than a few days, I start to lose the sense of paradise within me. This is the paradox of happiness, paradise, or whatever you want to call it. You can try to set up conditions where everything is perfect, you live in a nice house, eat good food, surround yourself with a picture-perfect family, etc. But life constantly moves. There are euphoric-producing activities of the soul and everything else. There's a big distinction between the two as to what constitutes a high quality of intense experience, therefore a high quality of life that actually makes you feel something deep and on fire for life, versus what is simply just average and mundane. Paradise is not a fixed entity you can nail down by owning a mansion on a tropical island, with 5 sports cars, having a position of status in the community where other people treat you with reverence because they think you're special, having an endless supply of recreational substances or home decor, whatever your bag is. It's something you must create with constant activity, a strong, intense release of your natural, inspired sensual loving energy day after day after day for the rest of your life. If you're enlightened, you know that those brief glimpses or visions you get of your few archetypes, action shots in your mind of being who you feel you were born to be, are your soul. So to me, if I endeavor to pursue an aesthetically inspired lifestyle and strive to release these archetypes inside of me, which is simply the expression of my soul, I'll be happy, living by my true nature. It's a dance, not a race. When you do your own thing, you have everything you need. When I got out of the woods and back to town, I had money. First I bought all new clothes and threw the old ones away. Then I went to the Japanese barber where he and his wife not only cut my hair but got way down into my ears and nose to clean them out. Then I got myself a room halfway between the library and the whorehouse. Both were equally important. Eric Hoffer, The True Believer, 1951. Life is a dance to enjoy as you go along, not a series of goals to achieve one by one like acquiring trophies on your mantle. Although the conventional self-help, capitalist forces would like us to believe differently so that we can destroy ourselves trying to attain these illusions, thinking we got something when we're really just lost souls. You can't change the world like so many idealistic hippies before you with naive visions have tried to do, so don't destroy yourself trying to join hands with the brotherhood of humanity, because it won't happen. The world operates on the power protocol regardless of whether it's power in your neck of the woods or power in the world. Those with the power want to keep it for themselves and make it stronger while minimizing the opposing forces. This is the way it has always worked and will continue to do so for some time to come, until someone with power figures out that it's better to cooperate and share rather than fight all the time. But then the underdogs will get some power and start acting like their elitist oppressors did. Power corrupts virtually everyone. Forget about your utopian visions for the world. You have to be true to yourself. The truly happiest people know that the game of life comes down to transcendence. There are a few among us who know that a great life as opposed to a generic one comes down to purging the spirit within. The only worthy experience is to release it, to try to rise above the general mundanity of the human condition. You can't reach transcendence all the time, but as long as you give full maximum effort to inspired sensual loving ventures day after day, you can stay close enough to your inner standard to have days when you have the power let it all out full blast like the strong, untamed free spirit some of us were born with the potential to be, and this feeling within yourself is worth more than anything the world can give you. Throughout my learning process of going out in the world to see what was out there, I kept eliminating most things after I tried them to keep coming back to me and the basic essence I had as a kid. Nothing's changed. My consciousness, therefore my essence, is still the same it was when I was a 5-year-old kid. Very few things out in the world do much for me. Your potential for happiness is really all inside of you. If you don't have this spring in your step, what you really got? This is the true prize of a life well lived, staying close to this feeling/standard and riding it as much as you can, yet none of our so-called self-help psychobablists talk about it much. Zorba the Greek laughs at the petty bureaucratization of life the world has devolved to in the so-called postmodern era. It seems as though the more technological progress we make, the more we regress into little autonomons, getting further and further away from our true natures. By definition, a free spirit is free because he or she does what they feel they ought to do through some mystical, intuitive, instinctive power within their souls, as opposed to simply following the agenda the world tries to thrust on them. If you want to be an enlightened free spirit, figure out what you really like to do, then figure out a way to earn your money from it. It takes guts and a strong identity to be able to do this over the entire course of a lifetime run. What is original, free, pure, and honest in you? Where's the substance and the individual character? Many people have empty souls, so they feel a need to cover themselves over with all this phony, glittery, ego crap for sale out there. Why do guys wear earrings? Why do girls color their hair? The lost and confused souls are following an agenda which is not who they really are in their souls the way they were born. This is why the world is messed up. We're not listening to the inner wisdom our gods gave us. Inspiration is goodness and godliness. You've got nothing if you ain't free. Janis Joplin. Inspired souls get inspired in only one way, doing tough, worthy, challenging things they like to do to expend this genetic seed they have inside of themselves to its max for bits of time here and there, both to get a pure thrill out of the experience and feel like they've manifested the divine part of their identities somehow. They feel like they're doing exactly what they were put on this earth to do. That's what being inspired is all about. An old Maori warrior I saw on TV looked like a country bumpkin from nowhere, yet he said something that could be the most profound and simply eloquent statement I ever heard, something like, be true to yourself, true to others, and do the hardest thing you can imagine for yourself. Then and only then will you truly become a full human being and develop such a respect for yourself that you become stronger than all the world's forces trying to manipulate you into becoming something that you're really not. This reminds me of Joseph Campbell's concept of the hero's journey and the statement I remember from a prayer somewhere, "Thank you, Lord, for giving me everything I didn't want," because only when you face adversity do you truly expend energy in discovering the essence that is you. Free people on the path seeking enlightenment will put themselves through hardships in harm's way in order to learn more about their lives. Life for an individual seeking enlightenment is to go out into the unknown world, get beat up by it, lick your wounds, learn, train yourself until you reach a point where you come back to yourself, find a sense of inner peace and inspiration which is stronger and more serene than anything the world can offer you. This is how an inspired soul develops. Life's adversities are good if they help make you a stronger, more enlightened, inspired person. If you live by your heart and soul as opposed to by your head, you're an inspired soul. The way you think about yourself is the way you'll be in real life. Your thoughts will translate into your identity. If you see yourself as a unique part of God, the divine life force of the universe, as I do because I exist and I know that some kind of divine force created me, you can't go wrong. I feel that God or some divine power created me, and part of that creation is His divine essence put into me, so I'm a part of God, therefore good and as powerful as I want to be, provided I use the power for good things. Martin Luther King said, "Greatness is determined by service." The individual who lives through his dark side in his hero's journey to understand his life and see how evil the world is, comes to the conclusion that the positive use of his inspired energy is about as divine as he can get, and it also serves the purpose of making him more inspired from the positive feedback he gets from people he helps. So this is the path enlightened people eventually take. They use their inspired power to do something good for the world. The rest of their lives is simplified into living consciously in the moment, trying to be as inspired, relaxed, peaceful and euphoric as they can be by intuitively following the aesthetic spiritual carnal meld of feelings they constantly feel inside, churning throughout their streams of consciousness. A simple life focusing on these things with love in your heart for what you value is the only way to go as far as I'm concerned. Love isn't love till it's given away. Whatever power there is in your soul to do good things for the world is nothing unless you expend that energy and use it up. Enlightened souls are not really meant to shut themselves off from the world. They're out there trying to pass their positive energy off into it. Inspired action. Life comes down to one thing: do what inspires you and expresses your love of life. Freedom is to live by your own truth. Free your mind and your feet will follow. Oh, to reach the point of death and realize one has not lived at all. Henry David Thoreau. Nothing human is alien, which is why I feel free to explore anything I want with my life while following my only rule: don't interfere with the lives of others unless they invite me in to share some of their time with me. Life is lived in your head. The game is to spend as much time doing the things you love to do, having fun, being eternally inspired, enjoying the journey and minimizing contact with negative forces as you go along. It's a constantly moving experience made up of many transient experiences which should be all filtered through the base you have inside of you. Within these transient experiences, some are intensely difficult, some are leisurely, some are transcendent, some are stressful, some are solitary, some are intimate, some are intuitive, and some are overwhelming, but all are meaningless unless lived through the foundation in your soul. I borrow good ideas from time to time when I hear them, but other than that, as a self-contained receptacle of independent thought, my enlightenment is as good as the best the world has come up with so far, because qualitatively, the human being can only take wisdom and enlightenment so far, then it becomes a matter of holding on to your vital spark as you age. It's like Margaret Sanger, suffragette and the pioneer of modern birth control, said in her magazine Woman Rebel: "No gods, no masters. Let God and man decree laws for themselves, but not for me. Contemplation and learning are good, but by themselves don't lead to a full life and could lead to depression and apathy if taken too far at the expense of action." Inspired sensual loving action from the soul is where the intense feelings of exertion, vitality, and bliss come from, which is the key to happiness: to feel that you took your life for a good ride today and purged the natural energy that lives inside of you in an intense, honorable way, true to who you are as an individual human being, which is what we were created for: to do the things we enjoy doing, some of which are useful to others, some of which are solely for our own pleasure, which together should give us a great mixed lifestyle of self-centered self-gratification and sharing, which is what we are in our natural state, not exclusively good or bad except for a few extremists. How much honest enthusiasm do you have about living your life as the experience it is in the moment, as opposed to working a job, making enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle, eating good tasting foods, driving a nice car, being respected by virtue of status, position, and outer dress, going around thinking you got something because they tell you you're a good little plebe, golfing on the weekends and being a good little pacified clone following the formula of one-dimensional success? The secret to life is to constantly consciously keep revitalizing the natural sense of enthusiasm that should live in your soul in all its ways: mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, lovingly, romantically, creatively, sensually, and hedonistically, by expending this energy which makes you feel strong, good and inspired. If you feel like you're in forward motion, and keep riding it, provided your effort is intelligently progressive as opposed to stupidly spinning your wheels on futile ventures, you should get what you want out of life within reason. Start every day off with the thought from Psalms 118:24 in the Bible, which basically states that God gave you another great day to live a glorious life if you want it, because one day the days will run out or be severely limited. Then you'll know how precious time really is in your finite life. If you do justice to all this natural potential energy by releasing it all the time and running with life as best as you can to constantly get it all out of your system all the time, you'll always feel pretty good and never get depressed. But if you falter and let most of this energy sit inside of you unused, either due to general inactivity, couch potatoism, general anxiety, worrying about things, analyzing life too much, or follow illusions from the world that are artificial to your true primal divine way of being and interfere with living your life by the natural flow you should feel intuitively coursing through your veins, that's the beginning of mundanity, which, if left unchecked, will take you over the longer you go along like this, and first lead to general dullness, then full-fledged blandness, just like Thoreau's famous line about the quiet lives of desperation many people lead. Soulful hedonistic loving pursuits. Your base, the most important thing, is to release your natural inspired energy through what I call soulful pursuits, which are activities such as reasonably intense physical activities, as with anything that works the body. Intellectual activities to exercise the mind and keep it stimulated. The release of my natural inspiration through creative pursuits. It could be anything that you create with your mind, body, or your hands. Seeking to expand my mind by feeding it with new information and knowledge. Occasional good conversation with a free thinker, not generic small talk. The search for general inspiration everywhere about the spirit of man and woman to feed off it. Quiet reflection. Purely relaxing downtime. Occasional periods of rest to replenish the soul. Culturing strong intimate relationships with lovers, relatives, friends, children, and pets. Altruistic activities to help your fellow man somehow. The free flow of thoughts unfettered. Good music. Being outdoors in nature. Playing with my dogs and cat. Pure skin-to-skin moments of intimate, romantic, sensual love for its own sake without forethought of sex. Great sex, and all sex is great. Intelligent, witty comedy. Occasional travel to great natural or exotic places to refresh my mind with a different point of view. Higher level mind enhancements. Attempts to go beyond the general mundanity of the human condition to attain higher states of consciousness through various other means. Simply by turning the stereo up in your room and dancing around for a while without feeling self-conscious in a free, easy breezy flow should be enough to lift your spirits out of any mundane mood. This is a mild example of the soulful pursuit taking you into the midst of your life force euphoria. It's a meld of everything that's beautiful, fun, interesting, inspirational, and worthwhile in life. My second category of activities is what I loosely call hedonistic pursuits, doing sensuous activities to try to get my pleasures out of life through all the primal, cerebral, and intuitive experiential senses I can find that make me feel good. My other category of pursuits necessary to live a good life is loving pursuits, things you do to try to get a sense within yourself that you're loved and that you love a few other people as special, kindred spirit, soulmate individuals, society as a whole, and pets to some degree, such that this love makes you feel connected to other souls to relieve some of the eternal solitary manner in which we all live by naturally as human beings, stuck in our heads, unable to share ourselves perfectly with anyone else for very long. A few people manage to achieve this perfect kindred spirit, soulmate connection with one or a few other people in their lives, but by and large, most people will not give nor get the love they really want over the entire course of the lifetime run. Look at soulful, hedonistic, and loving pursuits as the fuel that lights your fire to make you want to get out of bed in the morning to live out an inspired, interesting, transcendent, euphoric life. The great human being. I cannot afford to waste my time making money. Louis Agassiz. We do not believe in ourselves until someone reveals that deep inside us something is valuable, worthy of listening to, worthy of our trust, sacred to our touch. Once we believe in ourselves, we can risk curiosity, wonder, spontaneous delight, or any experience that reveals the human spirit. E. Cummings. In order to live free and happily, you must sacrifice boredom. It is always not an easy sacrifice. Richard Bach, Illusions. This, whatever you're doing now, may be your last act on earth. It may very well be your last battle. Focus your attention on the link between you and your death, without remorse, or sadness, or worrying. Focus your attention on the fact you don't have time, and let your acts flow accordingly. Let each of your acts be your last battle on earth. Only under those conditions will your acts have their rightful power. Otherwise they will be, for as long as you live, the acts of a timid man. A hunter gives his last battle its due respect. It's pleasurable that way. It dulls the edge of his fright. Carlos Castaneda, Journey to Istlan, Chapter 9. Here is a test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're alive, It isn't. Richard Bach, Illusions. Inspiration is the only real fountain of youth. The goal of life is to figure out how to stay inspired forever. You do this by having a regular routine of activities that excite and drive you. You should have a strong personal desire to be in harmony with your essence/soul. Awareness of what's in your soul could be straight, clear, true, and pure, or it could evolve gradually. Your soul contains your natural tendencies for things that give you intense emotional excitement. This should be the fuel of your life, the only thing that really matters. These few activities, soulful pursuits, should absorb you and intrinsically satisfy you enough to sustain passionate, inspired commitment for a lifetime. The enlightened soul strives to take full control of his or her work and life. Most enlightened souls don't want to work for others, so they either start their own businesses, do some kind of creative independent contract work, or live out their lives as the proverbial artist, some starving, some doing quite well money-wise. In any event, they own themselves. I've lived enough years on the poverty end of the scale as defined by society, but it didn't bother me much because I had the basics of what I needed to live comfortably according to my standards, which means I don't need much. But the thing is that I totally owned all my time. I had the freedom to do as I pleased, and I did with joy. I didn't want to work some dull job somewhere. I chose my frugal life in order to own it without being in bondage to money and materialism all the time. Life is simply an unmapped canvas of ongoing time. Enlightened free spirits know this and take full responsibility for this ride of experience known as a human lifetime. Everything is inside you, all your potential for happiness. The deepest life you can live is to try to probe your mind and even go beyond it to discover this essence inside of you, that may tie into a common essence of humanity beyond just your individual, preordained whims and desires. How do you find out who you are? You explore your life and don't just accept the package deal presented to you. Nothing is so dear and precious as the finite time of your life. Being yourself enlightened means you go to bed every single night of your life knowing you have a purpose with things to do in the morning. The goal of life in the real world is to earn enough money doing the things you want to do to give you the freedom to keep doing the things you want to do. An enlightened free spirit wants to get at what really makes him or her tick and live by it. He or she knows there's nothing fascinating happening anywhere on planet Earth that he absolutely must be at or do in order to feel fulfilled, because his feelings of fulfillment are within himself, while a brainwashed clone is always looking outside of him or herself for fulfillment, thinking that something out there is gonna do something significant to make him feel good about his life. It's like these people trying to be pop idols, feeling crushed if they are kicked out of the competition. Why don't you just work on your craft day by day and be happy that you've found your calling and are doing something you love to do? The world is polluted and many people are polluted by it, always looking for a sense of fulfillment by following something like the sports fan who cheers for some professional team who are a bunch of overpaid guys who could care less who they play for as long as they get the biggest contract. But the biggest pollutant of all is probably the self-delusion a lot of people live by, thinking they're really cool and fly according to pop culture standards, like they're living large in some cosmetics commercial or a big bad dude in a so-called action movie. You either got that enlightened sense within yourself that your life is fine regardless of all that stuff out there, or you're just a lost soul looking for love and approval from all those things the system has set up for you to go for, telling you these are the things you must want and strive for in order to be successful and be a cool, happy, happening citizen. In the book The Murdering of My Years, Artists and Activists Making Ends Meet, 2003, edited by Mickey Z, there are some statements like, "Consequently, at the tender age of 5 or 6, we are taught that different does not belong." The 24 individuals who have shared their stories in this book, have made the premeditated decision to become an activist and/or artist and, by definition, be different in a culture that values sameness while marginalizing individuality. Everywhere we are inundated with the American theology of individualism within the entrepreneur model. The heroes that are packaged and sold to us are Wall Street speculators, professional athletes, and digitally or surgically enhanced celebrities. The dreams we are encouraged to fulfill seem to be limited to appearing on television, purchasing consumer electronics, and gambling on the lottery. Civil society is vanishing while fortitude is measured by bungee jumps, morality is dropped along with cluster bombs from 15,000 feet, and solidarity has been reduced to waiting in line for hours to see a blockbuster film. Be true to yourself. Have the guts to find the inspired power that lives inside of your soul. Be strong enough to live by it. Be wise enough to parlay it into the means to earn your cash. Then go off into the sunset with your soulmate equal if you're into that fairy tale, romance thing which a lot of free-spirited types aren't. They're too free to commit to anything but life in the moment. The real purpose of life, as far as living in the capitalist world of material reality goes, is to find the truth and beauty in yourself, express it in such a way that you help, entertain, and/or inspire people and they pay you for it. If you want to live free, read this book and try to develop your primal divine spark to feel the way Vincent van Gogh probably felt one night looking up at the stars painting Starry Night, or how Thomas Edison felt when he was on the cusp of creating something new. What else do you got but the spirit to do something?